The massive battle against Lao Shan goes all the way back to the original Monster Hunter. And the footage that I'm using for this video is captured from an emulated and upscaled version of Monster Hunter Portable 2nd G, also known as Monster Hunter Freedom Unite in the West. This was the very first super large monster for the entire series, and really paved the way for monsters like Gen Moran, the Dalamadur, and other large monsters that came after it. You fight this monster in a special map called the Fortress, which is a town up in the mountains that has been made to stop large monsters. Before we go over the actual battle, let's look at the name. Lao Shan is actually the Chinese pronunciation of the three kanji you see below, which means the old mountain dragon. So in Japanese, they also say it in katakana as Lao Shan. I wish I knew the exact pronunciation in Chinese, but I don't. Now again, this takes place in the special map called the Fortress, which there's lots of little lookout points so you can see the majestic beast heading towards the final destination, which if you go and grab a map, which we're about to do now, we'll be able to see this map a little bit better. So once you go inside, there's kind of this area here where you can pick up different supplies, whether it be a cannonball, ballistas, items from the box, or a map. So if you see on the map, this is the central point, and then we're going to branch off and go between areas 1, 2, 3, and 4, which is the route in which Lao Shan moves. Now in this version of the game and this particular quest, you cannot kill Lao until it reaches the final area of 5. However, this thing is a tank. It has so much health, it's ridiculous. So your job is, before it gets to area 5, is to dwindle down as much health as you possibly can. Now there is a stoppage on how much you can bring it down, just to ensure that there is a final battle in area 5. Now the way I like to think of it is that, you know how you have those disk speed tests that tell you how fast your hard drive is on the read and write speeds for your computer? Lao Shan is pretty much the DPS test of Monster Hunter. If you do not have an incredibly powerful weapon, and if you're not hitting and dealing a lot of damage, you're not going to kill this thing in time. So we're going to fast forward through a lot of this fight because it's very long. However, if you notice, no matter how much you hit this thing, it's going to totally ignore you. This is a dragon on a mission. It is going to plow its way all the way to number 5 and do everything it can to break through the gate. So we're going to go ahead now and take a little bit of a tour. We're going to check out area 3. Again, the first few areas look really similar. They're just very eerie. There's some areas up the top. If you're a gunner, you can get on top of that and shoot it in the head, and other ways as well. We're going to go over here and head over to area 4. Area 4 is one of my favorite because it has this nice bridge, and then you can get a really nice shot of the beast when it comes, which we'll do in a second here. There it is up there, and you can walk up from the left. Now I have no idea who's actually pushing it or whether it's just the ground shaking that it's causing itself, but look up at the top and you can see these boulders, and these boulders are being thrown at this dragon throughout this entire hunt. It's really funny because Lao doesn't even react. He's just like, I like this bridge because it's like one of the only rare areas where Lao will actually actively attack you. Other than that, literally anything you do, he's just going to completely ignore. It's also a really nice lookout point to really check out the nice silhouette of this monster. Now, they've mentioned in past interviews that they always wanted to have the idea of a wyvern and not a dragon, which is why I suspect in English they translated them as wyvern. Because they said, if you go to dragon, that just makes it like a fantasy game, and there's dragons in every type of game, so there's nothing unique about it. So they wanted to go for this idea of a wyvern. However, they kept Lao how he was because he was just so massive and so unique. So this is area 6, it's just a little transitional area with some annoying small monsters. Then once you go up here, you go to the final place, which is the fortress top. Now up here we've got tons of different things. You can go and grab cannonballs, you can blow them through there, ballistas from the camp as well, and of course the 4-prong Dragonator. So your job is to protect this thing. Now if you guys remember from the Gen Moran or the Darren Moran fight where you had to protect the ship, the same idea applies here. The fortress starts at 100% health, and once Lao comes into this area and starts whacking at the gate, it will quickly dwindle down. If it goes to 0, you lose. If you don't kill it before the time is up, which time is pretty tight here, you lose. However, if you do enough damage to it, you can either kill it or you can repel it, which means when the time is over, it will just go ahead and abandon the fortress and leave. So it comes in on this left area here, and your idea is you want it to leave out the other area on the right. Just love looking at this beast though. I mean, it's just really cool looking, right? So we're going to fast forward quite a bit, but once you get to this last area, you really only have 10 minutes. And 10 minutes may sound like a lot, but for a monster with this much HP, it's not. So now Lao has finally reached the gate of the fortress and is ready to start whacking on it. And your job is to not get entangled in its feet or its attacks, and do as much damage as you can to this thing. Now, we just had 100% health on this fortress, and in only one shot, he has knocked it from 100 to 90%, so you sort of have this sense of urgency because the timer is ticking out, the health is ticking out, and you just know that you need to be dealing out a lot of damage. But yet, every time you get hit, that's a moment that you can't. So, I really love the pressure that this hunt puts on you. Now, of course, the trusty Dragonator's here, and this is something you do not want to miss with because it's a great source of a lot of damage. Shish kebab! And then he just stands up, he's like, ugh, okay, fine. He doesn't even knock him over, really. He just goes back down on his feet and starts whapping at the gate. Now again, we can go back to the camp and we can grab some ballistas, or we can go and grab some cannonballs and fire from the top. If you're doing multiplayer, you probably want to split it up with people on top and people on the bottom. But because we're solo right now, we're going to go right back down to the bottom and attack away. Now, attacking sounds really easy, but you will find yourself getting hit all the time through either wind pressure, Lao screaming, or just being entrapped with the legs as they move back and forth. So at this point, it really is just a race against the timer and trying not to get hit. Which I was not doing a very good job of doing. Okay, if time goes down and you have not done enough damage or killed it, you fail the quest. That's 35 minutes gone for nothing.
So you get nothing. You lose. Good day, sir.
Okay, here's an example of a successful Rappel. Again, you want to kill it because you get 9 carbs, but a Rappel will still give you quest rewards, which is nice. And one quick fun little thing here, if you notice, he's sort of going through the mountain. He's not going back to where he came from. The rumor in the game is that it's running away from a monster, which is also rumored to be Fatalis. Whether that's true or not, who knows. This wonderful monster also has a variant called the Ashen Lao Shan. So this is actually a variant in that it's not a different species. This is a Lao who's been going through volcanic areas, and the different volcanic ash and the iron buildup has actually changed the composition of its scales, making it more of a blue kind of pale look to it. And it's a little bit harder and has more health than a normal Lao, which, yeah, in G rank this thing is a pain in the butt to kill. Now, as if the fortress didn't already have enough problems with the Lao Shan and the Ashen Lao Shan, it also has one more monster that comes to give it a headache. This one is not technically in the same family, but if you notice here, it's the head of a Lao Shan, but the legs of a crab. This is called the Shen Gaoren. So very similar to the crabs in Monster Hunter 4 and the other games which use the head of either a Monoblos or a Diablos, this massive thing actually uses the head of a dead Dao Xiaolong, so it's pretty massive in size, as you can imagine. Now the battle against this thing is a little bit different in that it has these weird special attacks like these fireballs that it'll shoot out at you, which are pretty massive and cool. And it also has a lot more legs, so it will try to trample you down. And this monster, unlike Lao, will also actively attack the hunter by stomping down its feet and trying to stop you. If you do enough damage to it, it will collapse down onto the ground. So you have a big enemy crab that you can attack its weak point for massive damage. And this becomes especially important because when this thing stands up, it almost looks like the War of the Worlds, right? You have to hit the leg enough times to collapse it down to the ground to do damage to its head. So it's a pretty cool fight as well. I like this one actually. Now recently in a published book called the Monster Hunter 10th Anniversary Official Chronicle, they have a lot of developer interviews with all the creators talking about the monsters, and here they talked a lot about Lao and how they always wanted to make this monster from the very first Monster Hunter game, and how this really paved the ground for the other large monsters. And they succeeded because this is the result of a questionnaire that they gave everybody at the 10th anniversary event, which I also went to, and everyone's most memorable scene in Monster Hunter series was number 1, Lao Shan. Interesting enough, in a later interview in that same book from series producer Ryozo Tsujimoto, they list his profile here and they ask his favorite or a monster that he really likes, and he lists Lao Shan. Now if you're playing Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate, you can actually get materials from the Wyverian trader and make the armor for both the regular Lao and also the Ashen Lao. These are some design pictures that they had in the book. I really like the design, it's very Japanese. So there you go, I hope you guys enjoyed this little feature on Lao Shan. I know a lot of people will complain about this monster and they say, it's a chore, it takes too long to kill it, it doesn't hit you back. But I really think that they're looking at it the wrong way. The monster is on a crash course for the fortress, and this is an all-out assault from the hunter to see if they can stop it. So I really like the idea of putting all of your skills, all of your weapon, all of your attack power, everything to the test, and seeing whether or not you can stop it. And you also have to respect this monster for being the very first large monster. I mean, everything that was successful about this hunt later became what we now enjoy in all the other large monsters. I would love to see this monster come back in a different form and see how they can reimagine it for a modern Monster Hunter. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this little feature on Lao Shan, which is a very cool monster in the universe of Monster Hunter. Hopefully we'll see it coming back in the series sometime sooner than later. Until next time, happy hunting.